The rancher dropped his shovel the moment he saw her stumble out from the horizon. She was barefoot, her dress torn and sun-bleached, her skin blistered by the desert sun. But that wasn't what made him freeze. It was the way she held her arm, trembling, blood dripping from between her fingers. Something had bitten her. And by the way, her face twisted in pain. Whatever it wasn't normal. But what truly left him speechless was what he found when he followed the trail she left behind. Thomas Callahan lived on the edge of nowhere. His ranch sat 5 miles off the old railroad track in southern Nevada. Sand, sky, and silence as far as the eye could see. He liked it that way. No noise, no people, just him, his horse Juniper, and the low hum of wind whispering through the mesquite trees. Every morning was the same. Wake up before the sun, feed the animals, check the well, shovel the dry earth. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful, until she came. It was a blistering afternoon, the kind where the heat shimmered like ghosts above the ground. Thomas was digging a fence post near the western ridge when he saw a blur moving across the sand. At first, he thought it was a mirage. Then the shape collapsed. He grabbed his canteen and sprinted toward it. She was barely conscious when he reached her. Young, maybe in her early 20s, dressed in a dusty blue dress that had once been beautiful. Her face was flushed, with dry cracks along her lips. She looked like she'd walked through hell. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "Something bit me." Thomas gently lifted her sleeve. The bite was deep, far too deep for a rattlesnake. It was jagged, almost human-looking, but wider, like an animal's jaw. And already, angry red veins were starting to spread from it. He didn't wait. He hoisted her onto his horse and rode hard for the ranch. For the next several hours, she drifted in and out of consciousness while Thomas cleaned the wound and worked to cool her fevered body. She kept murmuring strange, fragmented things. "It followed me. I tried to leave it behind. Don't go near the wreckage." Wreckage? What wreckage? By dusk, she had stabilized enough to speak. Her name was Eva. She and her brother had been traveling across the desert in a small wagon, heading toward California. Their horse spooked at something near an old mine shaft and bolted, leaving them stranded. Then they saw something. "It wasn't a coyote," she explained, her voice trembling. "I've seen coyotes. This thing, it was faster, taller. It made no sound when it moved. One night, it attacked. They fought it off, but it bit her, and she ran. She didn't know if her brother had made it." Thomas listened quietly, a healthy dose of skepticism mixing with a growing unease. He'd heard tales, Old West ghost stories, creatures of the desert. But he was a man of reason. Still, the raw fear in her voice wasn't made up. Thomas could have let it go. He didn't need to go looking for trouble. But something gnawed at him, the way her wound pulsed with a strange dark hue, the way her eyes darted toward the desert every time the wind howled. So, at dawn, he saddled up Juniper. "I'm gonna find that wagon," he told her. She grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Don't follow the tracks after sunset." He nodded, but didn't ask why. About 3 miles west, he found it. The wagon was shattered, its wheels torn apart like matchsticks. The ground around it was scorched in a wide, unnatural circle. The smell was unsettling, burnt hair and iron and blood. Not fresh, but not old either. Inside the wagon, he found a photograph tucked under a floorboard. A younger Eva, smiling with a boy beside her. Must have been her brother. But there was no sign of him now. Then, he heard it. A dry, clicking sound, like claws tapping on stone. He turned slowly. Nothing. Only the wind and the endless stretch of desert. But he felt it. He was being watched. He found tracks leading away from the wagon. Not hoof prints, and not barefoot either. Something in between. Wider, Longer. He followed them for a short while, until the sky began to dim. He remembered her warning. Don't follow the tracks after sunset. A chill ran down his spine that had nothing to do with the evening air. He turned back. Fast. Ava was waiting on the porch when he returned. She saw the look on his face and knew. "He's gone," she said, her voice flat. Thomas hesitated. "I don't know for sure, but whatever's out there, it ain't natural." He handed her the photo. She looked at it for a long time. "I told him not to go near it, the cave, but he said we needed shade, water." That night, Thomas sat by the fire with a rifle in his lap. Eva didn't sleep. The wind seemed louder than before, the shadows longer. And sometime after midnight, they both heard it. Clicking. From just beyond the barn, he rose, rifle ready. Eva grabbed a lantern. They stepped outside together, the lantern casting a wide, trembling glow. The desert was quiet, still. Then, movement. Near the fence, not walking, crawling. Fast. Thomas aimed. But the thing ducked out of sight. He ran toward the barn, Eva right behind him. They circled wide, nothing, until they looked up. Perched on the roof of the barn was a figure. Tall, thin, pale. Its eyes glinted like glass in the firelight. Then, with an impossible leap, it launched itself back into the dark. They could have left, packed up and run from that desolate place. But Thomas wasn't about to abandon his home, and Ava, she said she wouldn't run again. So they waited. Together. The wound on her arm began to heal. Slowly. But the fever never fully left. Was it venom? An infection? Or something older, something born of the desert itself? No doctor could say. But they made a new set of rules. Never go near the cave. Never follow the tracks after dark. And never ever ignore the wind when it changes direction. Because sometimes, survival means believing the unbelievable. Weeks later, a rider came by. Said he'd seen strange lights in the desert, heard stories floating around town. Thomas didn't answer. He just tipped his hat and leaned back in his chair, his rifle always close by. Inside the house, Ava stood by the window, holding that old photograph. Her brother never came back. But in that house, surrounded by the silence and the desert wind, she finally felt something she hadn't in a long, long time. Safe.